Today I'm going to be installing the Taconcha trailer wiring harness and draw-tight trailer hitch on 2009 Nissan Murano. First thing we're going to want to do is take off this floor panel here. Just twist these cables. That should allow us to slide and pull that out. Go. Pop off this other floor panel. Next we're going to take off these two side floor panels. Next we're going to take off this rear threshold plate here. And to do that, you're just going to want to get in behind these rivets, pop them out, and then they'll just slide right out. Basically, you pop this top part off first, and then this part will slide right off. Once you have those three rivets off, you just want to gently tug on that threshold plate, and that should... Next we're going to want to remove these side compartments. There's 2 bolts to remove those. So I'm just going to remove those guys. Once the bolts are removed, these side panels just slide out from the carpet. We're going to need to remove this back panel here to get access to the electrical for the rear tail lights. So we're going to need to remove these 2 brackets here. The first one is pretty simple. You just got to pull this piece down and then give it a little bit of a pry here, and then you'll remove that screw there. And the second one, you just got to get a flat-edged screwdriver right in between the little space there and pull that straight out. That's that one. Next we want to take this back panel off by gently prying against the side here. There's 2 little rivets. There you go. Once you pop both of those off, you should have access to the electrical behind the for the rear taillights. We're going to start with the driver's side. The first thing we want to do is locate this cable with a piece of foam tape on it and remove that foam tape. Next you're going to want to unclip this connector here by pushing on the little tab and pulling. Okay, once that's disconnected, we can start connecting our harness. First we're going to look for the yellow and brown part of the harness, and we're going to connect that right in between the 2 that were previously connected. That's what it's going to look like when it's connected again. Next we want to locate the green and red wires and run those along the back side threshold there, and behind the other piece of cable that's taped up with foam here. We're going to remove that foam and insert the green and red one just like we did on the other side. Careful to go underneath these back plates here so that we don't get any crimping between the side panels and the metal here on the side. Once that green and red one is clipped in the passenger side, we're going to want to zip tie this green and red cable along this wire harness alongside the back here, just so that it stays out of the way. I'm just going to cut off the excess so that we don't have zip ties hanging around. Next we need to ground the unit, so what we're going to do is use the screw that they provided and screw it right into the back of the metal right at the back there. There's a nice little flat spot that you can install it to. Here's the ground screw that just mounted to the back plate there. Now we just put some double-sided tape on the control box, and we're just going to fasten it right to the flat side of the back here underneath the wires that were coming out for the rear driver side light. On the driver's side, you're going to want to locate the power connector. It's attach this wire harness underneath here, and we're just going to plug the power connector from the control box into that power connector. Added a couple more zip ties to clean things up a bit. We're just going to leave the main pigtails in the tire compartment for now. Next, we want to go under the hood and locate the fuse panel. And there's two clips, one here at the front, one here at the back. And pop that off. And you're going to want to find the one that says trailer. Right there, 30 amp. And you're going to replace that one with the fuse that came with the Concha wire harness. Trailer fuse is located right here. I'm just going to put everything back in the reverse order. So first we're going to clip these back side panels on. Remember to pull the weather stripping back over top of the carpet. Last thing I want to do is test it. So the way I'm doing it is just using a multimeter. Ground is the first pin there, and the left turn signal is the middle one. So I am just looking for that to be alternating between 0 and 24 volts. So that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to test the right turn signal. So that is the ground pin and the last one there. And we're looking for that to alternate between 0 and 24. Looking good. Now we'll test the brake lights. That's the first pin. Got a solid 24 volts there. Looking good so far. So the way that I ran mine is I just put mine underneath the cargo cover here. And then I'll just keep it in this little cargo compartment. Close that up. That it's hidden. And whenever we need it, we can just pull it out. Hook it to the trailer. We've got a lot of line here if you need it. Next thing we're going to do is install the draw-type hidden hitch on the 2009 Nissan Murano. And first thing we got to do is lower the exhaust assembly. To remove the exhaust assembly, we're going to have to remove these rubber hangers. There's one on the passenger side and two of them on the driver's side. First we're going to spray them with some silicone lubricant just to prevent any cracking and loosen them up a bit. Now we're just going to use a pry bar to pry these up and over the rod that they're sitting on. Let's move that up to the side there. It's out of the way. Next thing we have to do is remove this toe bracket that's on the driver's side. There's two bolts on this side and two bolts on the inside. Mine were on pretty tight, so I used a little bit of WD-40 to loosen them up. Once the toe bracket is removed, there's going to be 3 weld nuts that we're going to be securing the hitch into on the driver's side. 1, 2, 3 over there. This one is actually really rusted out. So we're going to use some WD-40 and a toothbrush and try to clean them up a bit. Just make sure the bolts thread nice and clean before you put the hitch on. In order to clean out some of those weld nuts, I end up using one of these wire toothbrushes. Put it along in there. My weld nuts were rusted up pretty good, so I ended up having to get a 1/2-inch tap that was able to clean the threads for me. The number of threads per inch was about 20 for this Nissan Murano, 20 threads per inch, and that cleaned it up quite nicely with all the rust. And I got one in now, and I'm just going to clean the other 3. You can really see the rust that it was able to clean out of there. Quite gummed up, but threads are really nice and clean now. Next step is to disconnect this fascia from the valence. To do that, there's just 2 little rivets here that you just gotta pry back, and they'll pop down. And then those will pop out once you get them loose. There you go. Just come out like that. Next we're going to remove this valance here. It's underneath the backside that connects to the fascia board. There's 4 hex bolts in behind fascia that we're going to remove. Once the valance is off, we're ready to screw the hitch on. Just make sure that you have the teeth of the washer pointing up towards the hitch. Once you've tightened them by hand a bit, you're going to have to torque the 12 meter ones to 103 Newton meters.